Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another recording of Magic the Gathering Arena. We're starting about 30 minutes earlier than the 7 a.m. region in which I usually would start streaming if I'm actually awake at 7 a.m., which is a big if. I figured there was just no reason to try and record another episode of Ori and the Blind Forest, which is what I had been doing in the middle of the night earlier today, and then end up starting the stream later. Particularly because we're just still running into the problem of just my chair being incredibly uncomfortable, and that plus my back certainly is not working well. So we have about 4 more minutes to jump into doing this again. We don't really have a reason to do that. We already got 2 victories, you only needed 1. The store has, of course, run over, and so we've got some new daily deals. Let's see. All of these cards I have. There's no way I purchased all of these cards. These had to have been given because of the mastery. Plus, all of these cards are 50% off, which seems weird. Who really is going to come every 6 hours or 12 hours and check this daily deal offering? Alright, so let's just look what we've got here. We've got 1,600 gems for cosmetics, 1,000 gems for that. Is Historic Anthology still available? Yes, it is. And avatars are still available. And it seems like all the sleeves are still available. And it seems like all the pets are still available. So everything seems to be still available. I don't know why they're specifically trying to get people to purchase Throne of Elysium skins. We're about to hit rank 70, and then if we get to rank 80, then we would have practically everything. You really don't get everything until you get to rank 90, but whatever. The main problem that we've been running into is we still don't have enough gems. We're going to get about 800 more gems with the rest of the mastery. And we need 3,000 when the next expansion happens. There's nothing else here being offered. Profile wise, we're working our way up to potentially a platinum tier or whatever is above gold tier, but that would take a lot more. So we're gonna have to focus on this, which means a rank draft with Theros Beyond Death. And if we just briefly look here and click show me all that's not collected between Theros Beyond Death, the cards are not particularly plentiful there. We have pretty much everything. There's, let's see, 6 per page, so we're talking 14 cards, of which a lot of them are of legendary commander rarity, or they're wild rare cards. We could certainly check that. Let's see. I don't believe any of them are uncommon, and we could also just select common and basic lands to prove that there aren't any of those missing too. So of the 14 missing, 12 plus, actually it's not 14 that's missing, it's 24 that we're missing. So 12 plus 5, 17 are uncommon cards, or rare cards, and then 9 are mythic rare cards. So odds are not particularly high that we would be able to rare draft much of anything other than, generally speaking, just filling in the 4th copy of something. Like this card I have 3 copies of, this card I have 3 copies of, this card I have 3 copies of. Otherwise I pretty much have everything. This card I only have 2 copies of, and it seems like it is rated. They're at a 4.0 or 6.0. This looks different. I don't recall this being this way. Is there a way to, like, there's nothing here. Is there a way to hide the deck? Or, no, I guess they've made some change here. So can you just drag now? Yeah, you just drag straight into the deck. Interesting. So as you're drafting, you see your deck, which this probably is a lot more realistic to how you would do a draft. I think we still are pretty much dealing with bots though, so now since we're doing this as it is, we'll still want to do some tweaks later. Only have 1 copy of this, and seems like green might be a path. I'm still gonna click because clicking makes the most sense. And now we're in a situation where rare drafting just doesn't make sense. This would give flying to potentially a green. Otherwise we get a red. Yeah, we're missing this, but it's pretty low. And we're missing this, but it's pretty low in quality. So I'll take the low quality or the low ranked red. And then we're missing that. I don't know how many I have here. It wasn't saying. Yeah, again, I'm not really missing anything, so this comes down to what's the best card. I guess that's the best card. I suppose if you're drafting and you got a 5th mythic rare card, that would turn into a wild card, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just wasted completely. But honestly, if you saw a mythic rare card in a draft, you should probably take it just to ensure that your opponents don't have it. So yeah, you're kind of in a position where you just have to grab good cards if you see them regardless. So which one's the best card to have in this option? This is like a 1.5. This looks like it's a 0.5. This looks like it's a 0.5. This is a 1.5. I'm truly working towards a mono green deck. If we could get a hexproof solution or a slightly better card. Just take a slightly better card. And it does just feel like this booster pack is pretty much just giving us bad cards at this point, or cards that don't really matter. Alright, now with the next one, I only have 1 copy of this, so I have to take it, or I take a 4th copy of this one. This one's a better card to have. Either way, neither cards are probably gonna make it into the deck, but yeah, I don't know if I really need a 4th copy of this, so I'm gonna take a 2nd copy of that, and then we only have 2 copies of that, I think, or 3 copies of that. I'm still very much rare drafting. 2 copies of that, so I'll take that. And I don't know how I'll ever get past that point. I'm just too greedy of a person. That's really what it just boils down to. Is like, I see cards that I don't have in my collection. I have that OCD collectathon mentality, and as soon as I see that I don't have something, I want it, and I want it more than logically I should want. Yeah, I'm not missing any cards here, so then it's just taking that card because that's the best one. I suppose as we keep going down this path of mostly rare drafting, I am capable of building better decks and potentially winning more drafts, but it really also comes down to my own skill, and my skill certainly is not great either. I have 4 of all of these, so just take another green. I have 4 of all of these, so we'll take another green. I have 4 of all of these, so I'll take this. Yeah, I think I pretty much have everything of everything, so so there's no real choice there. Only have 1 of these, so I definitely should take that. Let's just look around to make sure. And then only have 1 of those, so I'll just take that. I only have 3 of those, so I'll take that. Only have 3 of this. Only have 2 of these. I only have 2 of these. Mostly just getting random cards now. And then we're back to having all 4, so we'll take that again. And I guess in a draft, you still are limited to having 4 copies of the same card. Like, I don't think you could just somehow get so lucky that you had 6 or 7 of the same card. Even if that was the case, I think you'd still be building an invalid deck. Speaking of Magic, since that's what we're talking about and playing right now, there is also some weirdness in the Pauper Cubed, which is all common cards. Basically, I think from the beginning of Magic, you can build your own draft cube and play that. That gameplay mode is coming to Magic Online. Why is there any new content coming to Magic Online? It does seem like there's some insanity there. I like the pick number. I don't know if that really helps me any, but it's nice to see it. But yeah, I know Magic Arena is far behind, and so there is definitely an argument about Magic Arena needing to speed up. But you don't solve that problem by keeping people on the old system that is only going to continue to push people to play the old stuff. Get rid of all the black cards, I think. We'll fix that. So now we need to get rid of all the white cards. Get rid of that. I watched the 3rd season of I guess now we need to actually look at the cards. We have 6 more cards we need to get rid of. I watched the third season of Netflix's Castlevania series. No, I haven't, still not gotten to the point of watching The Witcher. I think I will eventually find some time to do that, though. There's something very weird about the third season, I would say, of Castlevania, in the idea that they start the season showing Alucard, very nicely animated, no shortcuts taken whatsoever, showing him kind of fishing, cooking the fish, serving himself lunch. It's like a 3 or 4 minute scene, just like a cooking anime scene that you occasionally will see and recognize if you've watched enough anime. And they spend that extra budget. But then later on in the series, because they spent that budget and they front loaded all this nice animation, there's some fight and action scenes that aren't as well animated. Also, there's one episode, continuing with the theme of just unnecessarily adding content. There's one episode where they make the decision to have a sex scene, but instead of just having a sex scene and showing, spoiler alert, that the character in the sex scene is getting betrayed as they're sleeping with the other characters involved, they have 2 sex scenes that shows the exact same theme twice over. And the only real difference between the 2 scenes is that one character kind of fails and is somewhat slain by the betrayal, and the other character doesn't fail, and he counteracts the betrayal, although it does kind of ruin him emotionally. So, not a big deal there. Not enough of a theme to really need to repeat it twice in the exact same episode. It felt like they were putting everything in the same episode specifically to just have a single episode where the characters where that episode could just be heavily censored or taken out of rotation. There aren't very many Castlevania episodes anyways. Also, the third season doesn't really end anywhere. I think Castlevania as a series will probably be relatively decent, assuming it can finish its entire tale and wrap up somewhat decently. The second season kind of ended where it felt like the 2 main characters besides Alucard, the Belmont and the magician lady, I thought they were going to probably be done with the series at the second one, and then it would be set 10-20 years later with a new generations of Belmonts. That typically happens in the Castlevania games, and they really didn't do that. In fact, they oddly covered what I believe is one of the lesser known DS Castlevania games, where it's the one game that's set in kind of a Japan timeline, and it's these twins, Japanese twins. Although I wouldn't be surprised if that let's just get rid of this too. I'm having a hard time choosing here because I'm talking. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. And let's go ahead and get rid of that. And just go ahead and get rid of that. There we go. And we'll start playing. Yeah. I've only read descriptions of that I believe it was a DS Castlevania game, or two DS Castlevania games perhaps, like Pokemon Red and Blue. And they brought in those characters, and they kind of didn't do anything with them, and they were unnecessary. They definitely name dropped. Let's smoke him for one more. Nah. Have to live with what we got. Let's see. They kind of name dropped a character named the Judge, who I'm sure was a character in one of the Castlevania video games, but he doesn't really play a role at all. They kind of monster name dropped the big mass of human beings that you fight, just a big ball of flesh. In one of the Castlevania games that's somewhat popular. There's pretty obviously a decent amount of things that are getting put into the Castlevania series to just reference the Castlevania video games. When you're at the third season, you really don't need to do it. My growing concern with Netflix is that the things made for Netflix may just never be of enough quality. I wish I could undo that, but whatever. Because I could have attacked, then played this, and then untapped him or her. Yeah, I definitely have a concern that some of the better things, even like the Witcher series, maybe it'll just get canceled on the third season and end on a cliffhanger, and that would be pretty bad. Even the what's I want to call it Stories Untold, but no, that's not the name of it. The show, Stranger Things. Yeah, even the Stranger Things series potentially has a problem. It's you may put a creature card and or a land card from among them in your hand. Put the rest in your graveyard. Wait a minute, why did it just give up there? Are we playing against real people finally? Why would a bot just give up? Did they reprogram the bots just to give up after a certain amount of time? Is there a random cooldown if you can just drag your game on long enough that all bots will now just randomly pick a number and concede? That would be interesting. That's very off-putting, but interesting nonetheless. But yeah, there's definitely a thought there with the Netflix series that even Stranger Things is getting stretched out, where they said originally that it was really just going to be one season. It would have been fine as one season. Then they brought it back for the second season. Second season was fine and tried to do a lot different. And then by the time that you're at the third season, it's kind of just doing the same thing that the second season did. And the second season definitely had some themes that were repeated from the first season. So you get to the fourth season, it feels like it's just going to be more of the same. And I don't know what you really do to wrap it up if you get to a fifth season, which is what you would used to at least need for syndication. I guess nowadays that's not really the case, and it might very well be that you can get to a let's just do this again and look at the cards and see if we wait long enough, if it'll just concede. Perhaps there's a bug with Relentless Pursuit in particular. Let's see. A 3-4. Well, I feel like I've waited as long as I would have before. And I don't think we were anywhere close to the timer. They've moved the timer. Oh, this one has an escape. Interesting. Good thing I didn't grab that one. Did this one have an escape? Nope. So yeah, there was. They're kind of in a weird position with the Castlevania animated series too. I kept getting the feeling, and I think I was wrong about it, but I just feel like the voice acting of the magician girl is kind of off, and it just always feels a little off. So I was listening to her throughout the entire season, and I was thinking, did they change this voice actress's the voice actress? Did they change her to somebody else? And then I went back to like the first season, and I'm like, no, she just kind of has a weird accent, which feels weird. Castlevania on Netflix is a great example of something that's not really anime by my book, because it is probably mostly made by Japanese animators, but it is definitely not made for a Japanese audience by default. It's just too focused around a Western audience feel of it, which is a little weird considering how Castlevania is a Japanese game first and foremost, although it's rather popular all around the West too. But when you see that there's exactly zero nudity in all the other cutscenes, all the other episodes, and then they just go really hardcore in one episode, that's inconsistent with the way the Japanese would do it, because they just don't put that kind of stigma on nudity in general with their public bathing and such. So if it was a Japanese anime, there would be nudity all throughout the show, not just the one episode in the third season. I don't believe there was anything else shown. The violence is not quite there either. It's not quite intense enough or consistent enough. There is a bigger criticism you could make with it, that there's too many characters that they're following. That they were literally jumping between 4 different plots. So you'd have an A plot with the Belmont and the Belmont and the Magician Girl. You'd have a B plot with Alucard and the Japanese twins. You would have a C plot with the Forge Master who got thrown through the window and is trying to... he spends the entire season trying to get his way back to where he started at the end of the previous season for revenge, basically. And his character development's not much, because so much of this is just split between people's time. Let's see, +1 and trample. Let's get +1. I guess I could give this one a buff. Nothing really stopping it. Does this have death touch? And then you have, after that C plot of the Forge Master who is thrown into the eastern Middle East and trying to get his way back, you have the D plot of the other Forge Master who was betrayed and captured by the vampire lady who tried to betray Dracula. And frankly, that's the only Dracula or vampire stuff that even happens. Like, you get a small revelation of that, but that's kind of it. Like, Dracula does not come back, spoiler alert. There's no other vampire that successfully in that season manages to show up. So the only creatures you're fighting mostly are just night creatures. Untap that creature. Okay. And this one block? Nope. I want to sacrifice another creature. Just attack with everything. In this case. Spider has reach, but I don't think that really matters. So there's barely an overarching plot, and barely an actual bad guy in the entire third season. I would say that the Castlevania series in particular, very, very short number of episodes. The episodes are a little bit longer, but hey, we got another concession. Interesting. Although at least in that case, I knew I was going to lose. So that's much more believable. Yeah. And this is probably the first time I've ever gotten 2 wins without at least having a loss under my belt, if not two losses under my belt. So yeah, I really can't recommend anybody watching Castlevania Season 3 as it stands. I can probably recommend watching the entire series once it's finished. And that was one of the things that Netflix was supposed to be the solution of and the promise of. I saw a metric that now the average cable bundle package, I wouldn't say probably the average cable bill if you're just paying for cable, but the average cable bundle package is more expensive than all other average household bills combined. So your water, your electricity, your gas, natural gas. I don't know if they're including a phone bill in that, because they probably mean a cable bundle package that has some kind of home phone service. So I don't know if they're including a cell phone service on top of that. But yeah, cable is still a nightmare, and unfortunately Netflix didn't solve that problem completely, and then Disney Plus has got The Mandalorian going for itself, but that's kind of it. I would have expected more new things to have been added. Enchanted creature gets +1 and +1 and has trample. So, do I want this or do I want this? This card must attack if able. Alright. Yeah. But on the other hand, to wrap up this talking point, it's not really, as a video game critic or as a video game fan, of large interest to me that there are good video game movies or anime or TV series. The Last of Us HBO series too definitely comes into play there also. Like, none of that really concerns me much because I kind of don't care. Like, and I kind of can't care. The truth of the matter is that their video games are interactive, and by my opinion, way better than any non-interactive media in almost every instance and scenario. So it is just a step down to make a movie. Particularly if you're talking like a Netflix anime, that really isn't bringing in a new audience. In no way could you honestly think it would catch a new audience. Whereas at least the Witcher series on Netflix is more live action, and that's a bit more believable that would that it is more believable that would get some bigger audience. For the accountability section, we kind of had already mentioned that I was playing Ori and the Blind Forest. It's frustrating because I made some good progress on it, getting all the collectibles, and then they took me into a area called the Misty Woods, where until the end of the turn, target creature gets +X. It's the number of lore counters. Okay. Do I want to attack with trample? Not really. So, yeah. I find it increasingly frustrating to see how much Ori and the Blind Forest was hyped up, and then to play it and find it to be just a nicely animated frustration Super Meat Boy style frustration platformer. That honestly, even the animation, by the time I was in the Misty Wood, I was seeing sections that weren't that well animated. So I have 2, 4, 6 here. Only thing I can do is something like this. Now I have to choose a target that is going to give him a buff. Let's see. Do this. Do this. And this would not really do anything. Right now, after doing the Misty Wood part of it, it took me to a area which there's assumedly 3 dungeons in the world, but they kind of are just kind of segmented off sections of the main overworld map, which is an interesting idea for a Metroidvania game instead of having discrete sections. But also there's a problem because it's all just forest areas, so we kind of have a snowy forest area and a fiery forest area and a swampy forest area, but you're really not getting any more diversity than that. There's not even like a desert section or more of a water section. God forbid that there be a full water section, but it would probably be helpful. But yeah, it's not diverse enough in its color palettes or in its locations and its tile sets. Right now I'm doing a section where they've given me this new item that shifts gravity, and boy was that unexpected and unwelcome. It has you walking on blocks that you have to jump off, but you could be facing the left side of a block, so walking on the left face. So gravity normally would be pulling you downward, but instead gravity is pulling you in this direction, and you'll have to press the right control stick, right on the left stick to go up, and left on the control stick to go down, just because. And if you are hanging upside down, you still press right to go this direction and left to go this direction. And if you're hanging on this side, you still press right to go in this direction and left to go in this direction. It's just incredibly confusing the way it's built, and just not the way you would want it to be programmed, nor is it a gameplay mechanic that you just want flippantly thrown into a level. And the good news, I suppose, is it's only going to take maybe an hour and a half to get out of that level, and then almost certainly never use that ability again. I don't think they're even going to let you use the ability outside of that level, but it's not great. Well, this would probably not be a bad idea. Let's see. Does twice the damage to target creature or planeswalker, or creates an elemental with trample and haste. Each one of these are sorceries, so 1, 2, target, auto pair. So yeah, I'm not enjoying Ori and the Blind Forest, and Ori and the Will of Wisps, or Wisp of Wills, is, I believe, out today, so we'll talk about that. Also, it's not been announced yet, so we very well may just end the stream before it gets announced, or this may just be a blatant rumor that has been put out there. But there are several sources of some repute that are talking about E3 announcing that it's going to be canceled at 9 a.m. today. And then there are several video game journalists who don't do any checking or anything, who are already claiming that it's been canceled, which is not the right way to report on that. And I guess at that point there's not really anything more to do than just start going through the news. So I would say today, since it's relatively early, we're gonna have a lot of the same stories repeated, which probably means there's slightly less news, because I'll try and curate and remove all of that content. There's not a lot of reason to specifically talk about something that's already happened. Okay. Let's just attack. I could do this, and this would buff up both of them. It doesn't really matter though. If I use his ability here to buff up both, seems like nobody's gonna defend. I don't know if that really worked or not. It seems like it didn't. Oddly, it seems like I should have. He should be at 16, but whatever. Maybe gain some life. I guess I'm slightly bearing the lead here. OpenCritic has this article. The former Nintendo of America president, Reggie Fils-Aimé, has joined GameStop's board of directors, which, in fairness, is probably a good idea, but not the best idea, because I believe Reggie Fils-Aimé ran like Pizza Hut before, and he would have been pretty well suited to take over like Papa John's. The thing to take from this is people love Reggie, certainly, but why do people love Reggie? Mostly because he's just managed to run the Nintendo of America branch of Nintendo that barely does anything at all. They don't really make games that much. They just localize the Japanese games. But he's managed to run it without any real controversy. And people are, including myself in the past, definitely cult fans of Nintendo. So that love rubbed off. But when you think about GameStop, he would have some connections to Nintendo. So maybe he could negotiate or get a slightly better deal for Switch games. Probably not, though. If Walmart found out or Target found out that GameStop was getting some discount on new units, they would throw a fit and potentially just delist all Nintendo games. Same would be true if Reggie managed to negotiate some other kind of deal with Microsoft or Sony, or even third-party publishers. Let's see. Yeah, let's search for basic element. That's not going to be too bad. So, I don't know what he really has to do with that. Nintendo did deal with the amiibos as far as physical product, but that's kinda it. Let's see. Yeah, this does not work right. Look at this card. It says, Skalfos Maze Warden gets +1, -1 until the end of the turn. That tells me that this should be buffing both cards up, not just one. Otherwise it should say this card gets +1, or just gain +1/+1. So that's weird. Sacrifice this and describe here. We don't need that. What's our devotion look like? Yeah. 4. It would gain us 4 health. Do we need 4 health? Not really. So, yeah. And he's just on the board of directors, too. So let's not confuse that with... We'll run this again and see how this works. Yeah. It's totally bugged, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, Reggie Fils-Aimé, I don't know if this is a full full reshuffling of the board of directors in any way, really. And last I heard, it was, I think, the same people that ran Toys R Us into the ground that are running GameStop, you know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think that's the case. So even if there was like a big reshuffle of the board, a lot's still got to be done to fix this. The article continues here. Fils-Aimé will be joined with William Bill Simon, who worked at Walmart and PepsiCo. So maybe then between the two of them they could negotiate between Walmart and Nintendo and get some deal, but probably not. Unless Walmart just wants to buy all of GameStop, which I don't think it does. And James J.K. Simanchik, who is the current president and chief executive at PetSmart. PetSmart's another company not really doing that great, and I don't even think PepsiCo is doing great in the past year or so. Of course, nothing's doing great right now. So yeah, there's new heads at GameStop, but it doesn't solve the major issues. Jeez, do I want to mulligan this? I'll have no creatures if I keep that. And so yeah, GameStop still has a major problem in that it's selling physical games in a world that is increasingly not in need of selling physical games. It tried to branch out into selling video game memorabilia in a world where people increasingly are too smart to buy video game memorabilia. Their best bet with GameStop would be to branch out very widely and go into the comic book store direction and have merged just two dying industries together at the least, or even into the book selling direction. If they were selling a lot of comic books and manga and tabletop board games and toys in general, they really should be branching into toys more than anything, considering how Toys R Us is no longer around. Like, you wouldn't need to change the name if you're selling tabletop board games and trading card games, and all of that. But yeah, they need to definitely diversify. I don't think they can really go into selling too much other. They could sell t-shirts. T-shirts always sell. So if it became half a clothing brand with nerd clothing, then that would work too. They could branch into STEM somewhat. It wouldn't kill them to have a Raspberry Pis and Arduinos sold in their store, although frankly Raspberry Pis are used so often to run RetroPis that are emulation software that some of the video game companies would be upset with that for certain. So yeah, that would be a little bit of a problem. They definitely shouldn't go as far down to the Radio Shack direction and iTunes. Like, I don't even have an Apple product on Apple device, and still somehow I felt the need to install iTunes for their stupid audio encoding codec, and now it just asks me to reinstall it and update it like crazy. it's so ridiculous they don't have a standalone installer for their audio codec. But yeah. You know, in a weird way, if GameStop went as a franchisee, as a hunting store, and they sold like guns and knives and things like that, bows and arrows, that might be an underused market too. Although certainly you would have to do a major pivot there. Yeah, let's just untap a target creature. Why not? Am I sure? Sure. Why not? What does it matter? But at the end of the day, Reggie Fils-Aimé still, as far as I know, does not know retail. He just doesn't know that. He will be a great addition to give quarterly reports and speeches to shareholders, but that's kind of all he can do. Is he can just prepare good speeches and inspire confidence, which is in this case mostly a false confidence. Like, he doesn't know the supply lines. He doesn't know that side of the getting video game products into so many storefronts. He kind of knows it from the other side of Nintendo. I mean, somewhat. Nintendo would have had to have their stock shipped to the main warehouses of GameStop, but there probably was at most 12 main warehouses of GameStop, and then from that point it was probably up to GameStop to get it to each individual store. I could argue that perhaps under leadership like Reggie Fils-Aimé, where he's not really even the leader, there's a chance that GameStop employees will get treated better. You kind of need to fire all the managers, because you've just poisoned the wells for many years as far as the GameStop managers are concerned, as far as I understand it. So yeah, you kind of have to just, as a matter of process, fire all the managers, start over from scratch, and treat all of the employees a lot better. Give them a lot more hours, reasonable living wages with reasonable living hours. Make sure that the employees who are working at GameStop are not creeps, which is the cliched story that gets told, and B, are actually educated in the product and not just spouting ridiculous lies. Because both of those have also been cliched reports for GameStop employees, is that they will, either because their bosses are telling them or because they're just ignorant themselves, that they have a tendency to just spout off nonsense. So I can not be as positive as I think a lot of people otherwise were, being with Reggie Fils-Aimé being on the board of directors. You can be on the board of directors of multiple things too, so it wouldn't surprise me if he did end up on some other boards, and doesn't even really focus much time on GameStop. Again, I still think if he was made the new CEO of Papa John's Pizza, he's more qualified to do that than anything else. Or the other thought I had when he announced his retirement, was he might be the guy getting hired for replacing somebody that's in charge at Sony Interactive Entertainment, which that certainly would have been weird, to say the least. Okay. Sacrifice another creature, gets +1/+1. Okay. So can I do this? Block. Can I activate this ability? No, I don't have any mana. So I just screwed myself up there. Moving on. I don't know why he bumped himself up that way. How much he already had Death Touch. I thought. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he had only Death Touch previously. Alright, well. Let's do this. Take action. Give me a green. Enchant the creature. Get his life up. Draw another card. Play another land. We've got plenty of land. But I think we're probably going to lose here. Let's just continue with the news then. Gamatsu has an article, The Legend of Heroes Zero no Kiseki PC fan translation mod launches March 14th, which is weird to be advertised that a fan translation mod has a launch date. So this must be a fairly popular, I guess, Japanese RPG. The mod is based on the fan translation completed by the Heroes of Legend team, which consists of these member fake names. You can download it. Gamatsu has never really done that before, and I guess in general you can just buy the game itself in Japanese on Steam, and then the fan mod. That's a weird way to go, frankly. I would much prefer for there to be an official mod and for the developers of the game to simply pay the people for their translation work, even if it is just like a one-time payment. Let's see. Let me see if I fully understand this and see if there actually is a link to Steam so we can get that full bit of information. Yeah, the game is not on Steam, interestingly enough. So to purchase The Legend of Heroes Zero no Kiseki, you have to go through DL site, Falcom Shop, or Amazon Japan. It was first released in China in August 2011, followed by Japan in 2013, so maybe it's a Chinese game. That might explain some of the weirdness there. And I'm sure there's probably a large collection of Asian RPG games and Asian games in general that just aren't translated. We certainly have seen a large amount of games in general that are Chinese only coming out on Steam more often. Let's see. This has Death Touch. I don't know why it gets Death Touch and then it seems to... No, it doesn't have Death Touch. Why can this one not block? So there's a thing here where these little hints explain things wrong. Because this doesn't have death touch. It has, whenever a creature with death touch blocks or becomes blocked by this creature, destroy that creature. Which is not death touch by any means. He should have probably activated the sky ability first, but whatever. Well, we definitely don't want that. I don't think that helps me much either. Does this have haste? No. Let's just go ahead and attack with 2. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Disruptor Beam has laid off its devs as it transitions to a game tech provider. So this Boston-based company has laid off its developers less than a week after it sold Star Trek Timelines free to play, so to Tilting Point. We saw that news story. So 18 employees left reportedly before this point. So yeah, Disruptor Beam, even in their name, sounds like they were only created to make that one Star Trek game, and as soon as that failed, they seem to be partially out of the business, while they're still trying to kind of justify their existence, which they probably won't succeed at that. I wouldn't be surprised if part of the reason why this is happening is because there is just a lack of interest in continuing the Star Trek things that were in development before the CBS merger happened, and so there's probably a new person in charge, and they're just going to cancel all the projects just so they can save money, I guess. It might be the best way to describe it. Or it's an ego thing. It's very typical that somebody new gets in charge of a TV movie production company and they just cancel everything that was greenlit by their predecessor because they want ownership of the success, and they won't ever be around long enough to maintain ownership of the failure. Oh man, I could have probably done 2 more damage that way if he was gonna let me through, but he only really has to do 1 more damage, so I'm still probably gonna lose here. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Get a job, join Remedy Entertainment as a lead producer. That's in Espoo, Finland. We already talked about Reggie Fils-Aimé joining GameStop, so there's no real reason to talk about that multiple times. Gematsu has an article. Doom 64 re-release will add a new chapter after the main story, which is kind of cool, but it kind of is just a historical oddity more than anything else. Yeah, you kind of know that with Doom Eternal happening, there's really not going to be anything done with the old Doom series, and there really shouldn't be anything done with the old Doom series. They're really not in a position to try to revive the original Doom. going to do this. No, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do this. And I can't do any more because it will kill me. I'm going to do this. Although I shouldn't really attack with this, but I have to. So maybe he'll be so careful and cautious to protect this guy that he would let me win the game. Indestructible apparently. Still. Alright, we're not doing bad though. We in no way are doing bad. Even though we lost twice now, we've got 3 wins, which is the best option. And I guess you just get a percentage chance of a bonus pack. That's a little weird, but okay, whatever. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Oculus is eyeing easier ways to let apps launch on the Quest outside of the Oculus Store. If anybody's interested, check out that Gamma Sutra article. I'm not going to bother to cover that because I don't really feel like the Oculus is the way forward with VR, if there isn't even a way forward with VR. Let's see. This is probably not video game news, but Gematsu has an article here for the PS4. The Legend of Heroes Hajimari no Kisekai first web commercial is available, which... okay. That seems like this is more of a newer version of a Legend of Heroes series, not the same game that was getting the fan translation. It doesn't look like a terrible series by any means. Although, like, how many JRPGs out there need to be played? That's the big question. Because it could be a really small amount or a really high amount. Let's see. A mobile company is looking for a game writer. I think it's called Hola Vista, H-O-L-O, Holo Vista. Here's a trailer for it. It does seem like it's like an augmented reality, maybe kind of puzzle game type experience. Says seems to be some kind of almost like a seventh guest style game, but yeah, they're looking for a writer and some other video game writer I followed on Twitter retweeted them, so I'll mention it. I don't know if there's really much more that needs to be said there. Or if there's even much more that can be said there. There's listings on Gamefly for Saints Row the Third Remastered, which, to my understanding, there has not been any announcements of the Saints Row the Third Remastered for the PS4 or the Xbox One. Now, shouldn't this get a +1/+1. I thought it should. Maybe it did. So yeah, Gamefly has Saints Row the Third remastered for PS4 and Xbox One, with box art coming soon. So yeah, makes sense that some kind of remaster for the Saints Row series is going to happen. There's unlikely to be a remaster for the GTA series. There's also there should be like a full reboot of the GTA series at this point, but they're making too much with their online casino, and I think any talent in that series has long since left. We've got a game on Steam here called Rhythmic Retro Racer. It's another one of these neon games that's just always too hard. Looks like it's a racing game, but it's also kind of suffering from dark screenshot syndrome. It is basically just you're driving down lanes of rhythm music. Early access, $5.99, English only. Yeah, I don't see anything here that looks entertaining. I wouldn't want to have a over-the-shoulder perspective on music games anyways. This clearly needs to be a top-down style perspective. Alright. Guess we'll play that. And then no attacks. And then return. Next, we have a game on Steam called Path of Saramana. Sarama? I don't know how you pronounce that. It says it's a side scroller. It looks to me kind of like Ori and the Blind Forest, which I'm not going to hold that against it. It says it's a free-to-play side scroller. Fantasy platformer game. Young shaman journeying through the spirit realm as she searches for her father's soul. So it's free. So what is this? Is this a student project? Yeah, this is a student project. English full audio. I love student projects. Apparently I'm signed out, which I guess shouldn't be a big surprise considering how they effectively just signed me out of everything when my computer reboot. I could kill this guy, but he's got first strike and double strike, and I probably should have blocked something. Yeah, totally should have blocked something there. Okay. We need something. Need something big. I think that's it. That's gotta be it. We need this on. We need to be able to block and survive, and then get this on the field and survive. Yeah. I love student projects. At least I love putting them on the follow list or the wish list. I haven't really gotten around to covering any of them lately. I should, if I was more successful at making content in general, I should pretty easily, let's see, have a month where I just cover that kind of content. Cover student projects and highlight them. Like that would be a great thing to do in the summer when kids in high school and such are getting out of school and graduating. to just kind of promote that general idea. Right, until this guy is taken out, we've got a problem. And we've got a problem because he's got first strike and he's going to do a bunch of damage. So, I don't know how to solve this. If I had one card that would kill anything, that'd be great. Anything at all. But I don't think I have a single spell that just kills a minion. Although this guy will get buffed up eventually. So as long as he chooses not to attack because of the threat that I run against him by defending with a couple of characters, might be able to still win this. Gamatsu has an article here for the PS4 and Switch. Nippon Ichi Software, or Japan One Software, announces an RPG called Shoujo Jigoku no Doku Masume for PS3 and Switch. Does it have any images here? There's some characters by name. A poison princess, a white poison princess, girls in the morning dress. Morning, I assume, as in, like, death. Nothing really other than it's an RPG. So, pretty light on context there. I think this one will get buffed up more than I will. And this one has 26 cards, where I have 20, so I'll run out of cards faster than he will. So, all he's got to do, really, is ensure that at some point he has more than 9, 15, 22 attack. Once he has 22 attack, or thereabout, he could attack. I could defend with all of these guys and still not win. But on the other hand, if I was to attack this next turn, could I potentially win anyways? Probably not. I probably should have attacked the previous turn. Because if I'd attacked here, and here, and here, that would have been 7. And there, that would have been 13. So, attacking with this and this getting blocked would have worked. But it won't now. Unless I just want to attack with everything. See how this goes. Perhaps we still are playing with AI, and perhaps this guy is just not going to ever determine to attack. But then we just run out of cards. So, there's no real benefit to that, other than maybe we're getting some daily quests done, but I wouldn't be surprised if we've already done the daily quests. I should stop playing land, first of all. That's one thing I can do. Let's hold some cards in reserve and see if we can scare him a little bit. Although, he seems like he's just gonna screw around. 69, 69. This seems like his attack doubles each turn. Alright, well, He doesn't have trample. But he does have vigilance. That went back to my hand, or it can escape. Alright, well, that, and that. And that. We may have a victory here if he screws around enough, because there might be this idea where this guy gets strong enough, he's at 111, to do a one-hit kill. This guy would escape with 4 cards. I only have 2 cards, so it's not really a good reason to do that right now. Okay. We need to quit goofing around, so I'm going to do this. And then I'm just going to attack with everything. Like, we were going to lose anyways. Or I don't think there's, in the 15 remaining cards, anything else to worry about. I'm just hoping that he's so unfocused that he'll block just this one card and not block any of the other cards, and then I'll win, just because of it being really, really dumb. Otherwise I've lost. Like, the real trick here would have been to attack with everything except for one card. And I guess this card could escape back onto the field if it's not blocked. This guy has like 4 timeouts too. Right. Let's do this. Let's watch this card in particular, because he actually hits both of them and kills both of them. Yes, he does. Interesting. None of these others have escape abilities. So that did do something, but not enough. I have only 1 card left in the graveyard. So yeah, I can block this all I want, and he'll just take me out with that. But I definitely can't hate the way that went. We got 3 victories out of 7 victories. So we did go up. We got 300 gems, which is where we were going to get 800 on top of this, I think still. So we're still about 500 gems short, so we need to do another rank draft. Not today, but on Friday, I think we'll do another rank draft. I'm kind of hoping that they'll shift over to a different Ragnaros or something rank draft instead, so it's not just more Theros Beyond Death cards. But whatever it takes. Going forward with the next expansion, it is going to be fairly obvious that we're going to have to do a lot more rank drafts. And opening these packs right now, it's probably going to be a lot of duplicates, wild cards, and almost certainly nothing new. There's an interesting question, I suppose, as far as how many wild cards do we have. 38 common, 23 uncommon, 24 rare, and 13 mythic rare, which puts us in kind of an interesting position. With the draft, we got a lot of 4 copies or 3 copies of the cards, filling out that collection. And I imagine if I do have to do another Theros Beyond Death draft, I would run into the same situation. Let's just look at Theros Beyond Death cards alone for a second, and we can get a general idea of ones that are missing like 1 or 2. We have 1 on that first page, several on this page, several on this page, about 4 or 5. So there's still a decent number of cards that we don't have 4 exact copies of, but not a lot of cards that I know I absolutely would want. If anything, we've been playing for, it feels like at least a month and a half now of Theros Beyond Death, and there's not any cards I've seen lately that I haven't seen before that I really want. It would certainly be nice if Pauper came to Magic Arena, though, because then I would have quite the justification to say, give me all the common cards that I've not collected and just craft all these older cards. But yeah, that's not a smart way to do business. I have only 38 wild cards for commons, and a lot of these are just reprints of other cards. And then it'll be interesting to see what happens in Core 21 if we start to see a 3rd instance of some of these reprints. But yeah, there's still a lot of cards we definitely don't have. And that will always be the case. Defeat opponent's creatures. I guess we just do that in standard play, standard rank play, and then this ends in, I guess, 3 hours, not 3 minutes, as I was reading it. Yeah, they still haven't really fixed that to make it obvious that they're talking about hours instead of minutes. We have a game on Steam called Catharsis, which seems like it's a visual novel where you play with a cat, or you kind of have this relationship with a cat. It says it's not an otome game, so I don't know if you play as the cat or what, but it seems like it's kind of a dumb idea in a low-effort Chinese visual novel, if I was to guess. $2.99, English and Japanese. Alright, so it's a dumb idea where you play it seemingly as a cat in a visual novel, low effort Japanese game. I guess blame is due where it belongs. Let's see. Gematsu has Famitsu's review scores. Let's see what's new this week. Animal Crossing New Horizons getting a 38 out of 40. So people really, really like that. Although, in all fairness, I'm not sure how long you would have to play a game like Animal Crossing to realize that it's not particularly great. Because it could be very good for the first month, 2 months, 6 months, and that still really wouldn't be the full experience for most people who are going to play Animal Crossings. In sharp comparison to that 38 out of 40, we have Balthazar's Dream for PS4 and Switch, which has a 25 out of 40, which is terrible. Neo 2 has a 36 out of 40, which is pretty good. One Punch Man got a 29 out of 40, so even the Japanese people don't like the One Punch Man game. Redeemer got a 29 out of 40. Space Channel 5 VR got a 35 out of 40. It's a shame that's VR only, I believe. And then Subnautica for the PS4 got a 32 out of 40. Man, I wish there was a way to silence these guys. Let's just see if they maybe added a new pet audio. Let's see if we can turn down ambience all the way. Nope. So ambience, audio, not that. Do you think it's maybe voice? Nope. So it's gotta be sound effects. Yeah, sound effects. Honestly, turning sound effects down is probably not a bad idea anyways. But that is the one thing you want to hear, is the sound effects. Yeah, we've got to do this, and we've got to do this relatively quickly. So I need another swamp next turn. Otherwise we put a Vindictive Vampire on the field. So very few games came out this week to be reviewed. That very possibly has to do with the coronavirus, but it could also just have to do with the time of year. Here we have Digital Devolver saying cancel your E3 flights and hotels, y'all, which seems to be somewhat believable, although Digital Devolver does have a dog in that fight, because they do their own E3 parody show, but they were kind of having fun making their own E3 stage show parody series, so I don't know why they'd really want to mess with E3. But if it was just Digital Devolver, I wouldn't immediately report on it. But then you have Ars Technica saying E3 2020 has been cancelled, which, yeah, you get a little bit more believable there. You have Bloomberg, for better or worse, saying the game show slated for June called off over the virus fears. So, yeah. So you've got like 3 believable sources, or that you would have to get back to the level of a conspiracy theory to say all 3 of these different sources decided to announce something that wasn't true. And there might be some spin to it, and there might be some live streaming. the guy in charge of YouTube gaming tweeted out that, oh yeah, you can use our Premiere service and our YouTube streaming service to get your message out there, being pretty sleazy, frankly, in the midst of kind of this emergency. It's not like anybody who works in the games industry is not smarter, not familiar at least a little bit with YouTube's capability as far as premiering videos and streaming. So it's ridiculous pandering to mention that. We've got to. We're gonna have to sacrifice this if we're gonna win. Maybe we can bring it back later. Nope, I've totally lost. They took me out. And right now I'm playing ranked, so I actually do want to win. But unfortunately, I think I'm playing against the real players that know how to play. So I'm gonna lose pips. Yeah, you may very easily see me just fall back further and further. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. I can't even see my mouse cursor. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot shipments and digital sales top 2 million worldwide. Shipments, not sales. It's shipments plus digital sales, by the way, so they're also kind of cheating that number. From what I hear, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, alright, but not amazing. Gamatsu has the PS4 Neo 2 opening movie, if you want to check that out. Let's see. We'll start with the Blight Beetle. Chrono Trigger celebrates its 25th anniversary today, March 11th, 1995 in Japan. Okay. If this is the original artwork for Chrono Trigger, which I believe it is, there's certainly something interesting about how this lady is drawn. I don't know if this character is facing forward or backwards or what, or to the side. Her feet are facing forward, but I guess she's just got a mask. This is one of those great examples here. You have something that was drawn in 1995, well before the moe anime style, but yeah, they've always, because of pixel art or for other reasons, drawn anime characters to be relatively short, although I think most of these characters are supposed to be relatively young too. They're not supposed to be 40-year-olds. And inherently, there's very few stories where it's more interesting to have a 40-year-old as the character than it is to have like a 20-year-old, because a 20-year-old is more athletic, generally speaking, energetic, brash, violent, reactionary. You only get action movies where you have people like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Leslie Nielsen that did the Taken series. Like, all of those movies were clearly rewritten for those actors, because those actors are still popular and old. Otherwise, they would have newer actors doing it by far. And I would argue that in the case of Arnold Schwarzenegger in particular, his action days were a lot better when he was a lot younger, instead of his walk-on roles effectively in his most recent movies, because he's just not really capable of doing too much. And he was a bodybuilder anyway, so he wasn't really capable of doing too much in the first place. Just looking big. This guy's just talking to me and not playing, which is fine. If he just disconnects, that is perfectly fine by me. We will let him do his thing. So here we have Ori and the Will of Wisps out, and I can kind of recognize some of these characters, and I kind of recognize the gameplay. It looks a lot like Ori and the Blind Forest. It's rated very positively. I think Ori and the Blind Forest is also probably very positively rated. What's interesting here is there's no bundle, and it's nice there's no deluxe edition or DLC. If we look at the original game, it came out with a definitive edition, and then there's a bundle here with the original soundtrack and additional soundtrack. So the additional soundtrack is free, whereas the original soundtrack is selling for $9.99. Overall, Ori and the Blind Forest is overwhelmingly positive, which just makes me feel like I'm no longer in touch with gamers anymore, because I find it playing on easy frustrating, and I find it very much like a game that wanted to be a short animated series and not really much of a game. I don't know any other way to say it. I'm so far a little disappointed in it. It's probably very close to the experience I would have if I had never played Metroid, not even for 5 minutes. In fairness, I don't know if I've really ever played Metroid all the way through. Probably have only played it for like 5 minutes. But yeah, if I was to try to play all of Metroid right now, I'd probably be pretty disappointed in that too, with the side note of having a lot of people hype it up. But yeah, I think the platforming genre has been taken over by people who have either nostalgia for very nicely animated things, and a love for extremely difficult, frustrating games. I'm not going to say I won't buy Ori and the Will of Wisps, but probably would take my time buying it. And I don't think I'm going to buy it anytime soon. But yeah, it is also a possibility that I could just be between suffering from insomnia and suffering from back pain and just suffering in general. I could just be burning out on video games in general. I'm a critic. I've always been a critic. I've always been fairly harshly critical of all games I've covered. And I've been cherry picking a lot of games that I did have nostalgia for. So like when I was covering Portal, for instance, it's no surprise to me that I would have enjoyed Portal, because that's one of my favorite games. But now as I start to branch out more and more towards other kinds of games or games I haven't played before, it does seem like I've run into quite a lot of them that I'm just not having the greatest amount of time with. So this one is getting live, but it's not doing anything else. So if I can just continuously maintain the status quo until I can get Bola Citadel on the field, I should be able to win this. I think. Yeah, fairly certain. Now, what was occurring to me, or in previous turns, is to potentially sacrifice this character and using this, so I have more flying creatures, but I think I'm fine where I am. And this, I just realized, is killing this because it puts a zombie token on there, and then it gains life. So it starts as a 0/0, and then the game lets it stay at a 0/0 for half a second before giving it more attacks, +1/+1 counters. But it doesn't get any more +1/+1 counters because of Blight Beetle. Thus, it is still at a 0/0 by the time it runs the check to see can this creature survive or not. I'm not sure if that's really how that should work. This is kind of a great example of a scenario that would be argued over as far as just execution order and whether a mass does make a 0/0 token to start with and then gets +1/+ counter. The description of what a mass does seem to say it puts +1/+1 counters on them. So it would be a little hard to argue with that. Open Critic has an article here. You can customize your Doom Slayer and Doom Eternal, which feels a little bit mobile game-ish and unnecessary. That's not really what I would be coming to Doom for, is to change the skins. Particularly since I don't think they're really focusing on much of the multiplayer elements in Doom Eternal, if it even has multiplayer elements. I think it probably does, but it's not the snap map. It's not anything I think that matters to anybody. Let's see, do we want to do anything else? Nope. And we are done. Yep, that's game over. I've won. Unless he can do something to get rid of the Cauldron Familiar. Any type of attack he tries to do will be countered. And then put this on the field. And then sacrifice it again. And then put this on the field. We got it. And then do we want to sacrifice 3 more characters? I don't even have enough mana to do that, actually. So there's kind of nothing that needs to be done. Open Critic has an article here. Horizon Zero Dawn is making its way to PC this summer. This is an interesting turn of events because this is basically the first PlayStation 4 exclusive to make it to PC of any real note, at least something I can think of. It's from Guerrilla Games. It's not directly a Sony studio, but it does just act as another chink in the armor as far as PlayStation exclusives and at what real level we might see exclusives in the PlayStation 5 era, which Christmas might as well be canceled at this point as far as consoles. I have a rather large doubt that we'll see any consoles come out this year, and maybe not even next year, which might just be a great period of people to continue to work on their games and have a really nice lineup of AAA games that are highly polished and not full of bugs, ready to run on hardware that has been locked in for an extra year. So the hardware might be a little bit weaker, but who cares if the games run better because they're more polished. Let's see. This guy's totally doomed. Gamatsu has an article here. Azure Lane Crosswave DLC characters Taihao and Rune. It has some gameplay. These are the anime girls that represent naval ships. Although Azure Lane Crosswave was the Steam game that nobody really liked. They said it was 90% cutscenes and the 10% of gameplay was pretty bad. I didn't like the mobile version of Azure Lane either, and that sells very well on cell phones. Oops. I'm still playing Destiny Child and still going fine. I'm spending a lot of time on it and potentially have ruined my cell phone battery because of it. But I'm getting really high up as far as the ranks of an expert level player, and there's still a lot to do. They've introduced new content, and they're going to introduce even more new content later today, I believe. This thing would just need more mana. One more mana, I think, is all I really need. One more swamp, and then I could sacrifice this, and this. So these three, and then that would give me more health for no good reason, really. Even right, that'll work as long as they manage not to destroy anything. So next turn. Gamatsu has a rumor here. A Nintendo Indie Game Showcase is set for next week, followed by a Nintendo Direct. That's the one word I mispronounced. It's Direct the week after. Okay. Although I don't know what more could be really announced and what the actual timetable for any of that would actually be as far as new games. Just because, yeah, even if you finish developing the game, there's probably going to be a growing risk of putting your game out when people are afraid to go to stores, particularly going to extra stores to buy video games. So they'll probably be buying things online, and even that, when there's so much fear, people will probably just be saving their money. So yeah, the coronavirus may have an amazing effect on consumerism in a very possibly positive direction, because the consumerism is high, to say the least. Alright, so we'll just attack that, and then block that, and then block that. You know what? How about we block that instead, and then do that. And he tried, but he didn't succeed because I had an extra health. We could have kept that up for quite a while. Of course, when I play with this deck, I do have to baby it a lot more. There's another 200 gems. So we're almost at 2,000. So here's the guy on Twitter. According to his bio, he's the global head of gaming and virtual reality at YouTube. I know you can't read it, but yeah. So he puts out this tweet, one of 3. With the growing concerns around travel and live events, we'd like to remind all publishers and creators resources available to people. We kind of knew about YouTube's resources. Yeah, there's no real need to be sleazy and promote your game. This is a bad idea that came from a Monday morning meeting, if I was to guess. Seriously, do I want to have to mulligan a second time? Yeah, I'm going to mulligan a second time, and probably will be fine with that. So we'll toss that, and we'll toss that. And we'll put this on the field and that in the field. We have a game on Steam here called The Story of Usurpers and a bunch of Asian letters. It looks like it's a 4x3 low effort mobile game port or Famicom game that's been ported. Looks like a Chinese game. If I was to guess, English not supported, 99 cents, Chinese. Yep. No surprise there. Could attack here, and as dumb as this might sound, just let him block. That way well, I guess it wouldn't have mattered because Blight Beetle's going to defeat his ability anyways, so I just got a free hit there. Let's see, OpenCritic has the Neo reviews. It's averaging 87 of its top critics and 98% of critics recommend it, so they're giving it the overall rating of mighty. So yeah, it seems like people are liking it. Good to know. It's probably one of the second or third like AAA games to come out recently. Come to think of it, because we haven't really been looking at a lot of OpenCritic articles this year so far. I'm gonna need something else. I think I've got it now. Well, if I get Bull of Citadel in the next turn... Okay. Just block that. And then play that. I'm trying to hold on to this so I can get Bull of Citadel faster. These guys are gonna wreck me. They're gonna totally wreck me. We've got 5, 6, 7. We have enough. Gamer Sutra has an article here. Sayonara, a Wild Hearts developer, signs a multi-year partnership with Arena Interactive.
Wild animals,
so,
I like. People,
okay.
Not so much.
No big surprise there.
There is wonder.
Sayonara Wild Hearts was well received and seems to have somewhat sold well, so it's not amazingly surprising that they would want to continue that relationship. That's something something bad happened behind the scenes. Okay. How are we gonna play this now? I could decline this action, but I'm gonna take it. Gamatsu has an article here. Onion Games announces an arcade-like minigame called Romeo and Juliet, free to newsletter subscribers.
Tear it
Sign
down.
up for the secret
Tear it all down.
Onion. I assume that's how that's pronounced, and it's not onion. It doesn't look like much of a game though, frankly, so yeah. If you want to subscribe to a newsletter and get a free game, that seems to be an option for you. And then maybe at some point I should figure out if it's onion or onion. I don't know how you'd spell the word onion, come to think of it. Right, well, this guy has reach, so I can't attack at the moment. Oh, you know what I could do? I could search the word onion. Okay. It is spelled that way. So O-N-I-O-N is how you spell onion. Sometimes I see a word and just assume that it's a weird Japanese word, and it turns out it isn't. This is pretty big news. According to OpenCritic, Lego and Nintendo are teaming up for a Super Mario partnership. Now, Nintendo has been in the past a Mega Bloks partner. So, the idea that Lego directly is going to work with Nintendo is interesting. Although, it seems like there's going to be, I don't know if this is a, well, this was on March 10th or Mario Day. I don't know if this is a video game where there's going to be a Nintendo Lego video game from like TT Games. See, here's the image, and it doesn't even look particularly Lego-y. So I don't know. Doesn't look like it's particularly a thing. So I'm not sure what this is actually going to turn into. If anything, it may be that it is more video game and more Nintendo than on the Lego side. So most people, I think, are assuming that this means we'll see Nintendo sets, which Lego doesn't particularly like license sets too much. These Star Wars license sets have, of course, made them a ridiculous amount of money, but everything else that they put out are Lego City sets, Lego Friends sets, they're the Ninjago sets. They've tried really hard to not have any licensed sets that go on for a very long time because they want all the money they can get. So it would be weird, but it also would make sense if Star Wars sets are just not selling that well because Star Wars is just not selling that well to the new generation, and maybe they're trying to move on. Mega Bloks, in my opinion, is a worse quality product, so it could be that once Bowser, the Doug Bowser, was in charge of Nintendo of America, maybe he had some influence, or maybe this is a straight from Nintendo of Japan decision. They are doing the Mario Universal Studios Nintendo World in Japan, and seems like they might be doing that in other countries too eventually. So that's another thing to consider. But it really is a wait and see. And in all honesty, I'm kind of tired of Lego. I have purchased quite a lot and done quite a lot, and I think I've kind of hit a saturation point with it. I don't think it's not like I just hate it now and would never do a Lego set. It's just I've kind of gotten everything, and I have too many Lego sets that are assembled, taking up too much space, and that's a frustration to just have a lot of these sets.
Wait, you think nature is kind?
Of course, I could give them away if I really was interested in doing something like that. Right. Well, this and this. I lost my flying guy. Does any one of these have reach though? No. So smack this guy a couple times.
Scars are lessons written in skin.
Next we have a game on Steam called Pulse Forge VR, which looks a lot like Rhythm Saber or whatever that VR game is that's super popular. It's just a obvious low effort clone of that. Early access, free to play, English. Interesting that it's free to play, but I don't know what the angle there is to bother to make the same game twice and then make it free the second time.
Strike now.
Open Critic has
Strike
an article
hard.
here. 2K is making NFL games again, but there's a catch. For the first time in more than 15 years, 2K will be developing NFL games for major platforms, but there's one catch. It's a non-simulation game. The first is due out next year. What does that mean? Well, it means it won't be replicating the sport as closely as it can the same way Madden does every year. That's because EA still maintains exclusive rights to create simulations based on the game. Instead, we're left to speculate on what 2K's NFL game might be. Something like Blitz, a free-to-play arcade, perhaps. They don't know. Yeah. Non-simulation game is a weird descriptor, to say the least. Because if I was gonna guess anything, I would guess that they were gonna make a team management simulator game. But if it's not that, I don't know what you're doing. Are you doing some Telltale style storyline with NFL characters? That probably wouldn't work too well, because then you wouldn't make it an NFL game. You'd make something like a Madden game where whoever the popular football players are. I don't even know who I would name as far as a currently playing football player that is relatively popular or even relatively recognizable.
Let me show you what was lost.
One of the things I would argue is if there was a player that then they would replace Madden with that name, but I guess Madden just has the name recognizability. Yeah, I just shifted in my chair and hurt my back real bad. Just doing everything to not scream in pain into the microphone. But we're gonna have to probably speed up this whole process, and we've got a lot of news, so although a lot of it is just repeated. TechRaptor has this article, Meeple Station 1.0 is releasing this month with a campaign mode. This is basically an advertisement for a game that's not even out yet. This is an interesting story from TechRaptor. Black Mesa developer won't produce any more expansions, looking into original IP. So the one thing you would have wanted them to do, Crowbar Collective to do, is continue to make the other Half-Life games and
Starting
remake
over
them.
is the only way.
Although maybe it doesn't really matter because Half-Life 2 and the rest of the games, maybe they just run perfectly fine in their current state anyways. So there's no real need to remake anything. But I kind of doubt it. I kind of doubt if you played Black Mesa that you could easily jump into the next game in that series and feel like that works perfectly well. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. Game Informer has laid off 6 staff in a restructure as the publisher Kathy Preston retires. So something clearly happened in the background here. You don't have the publisher retire and then immediately 6 other people get laid off. You have somebody Kathy Preston refusing to fire these 6 people, and thus they force her into retirement and then lay off the people. You have to kind of assume that's the case. Last time I followed Game Informer, though, they were one of the major SJW sites that I just couldn't bear to get my video game news from anymore. I think I could be wrong about that. Or wait, no, Game Informer I think is owned by GameStop, and that might be part of the problem too. But yeah, I don't think Game Informer ever was a good source for me for video game news. Let's see. Is there anything on our Wikipedia page that we could say as far as controversies? No. And Wikipedia's list of people who work here show it's a pretty small number of people. Yep. I guess I was wrong there. I guess I just kind of by default have lumped into my head almost all mainstream video game media and video game journalists because they all are kind of the same and the same awfulness. It's their own groupthink and reactions and just putting out the exact same articles
you fight like a city
over and over
brat.
again, opinion pieces over and over again that has caused me to lump them in instead of thinking of them as individuals. At the very least, when you look at like MSNBC and CNN and Fox News, you have a general idea of what Fox News is about and CNN is about and MSNBC is about. If they were all 3 of those channels putting out the exact same articles, saying the exact same perspective and opinion, it would very quickly get mashed into one giant mush of nothing in your head. And that's pretty much the state of video game journalism, is we don't have a CNN. We kind of only have a CNN or maybe more accurately, we kind of only have an MSNBC that is just in the form of almost all video game journalists.
I've seen puppies whine less than you.
Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Heart Fragment Demo, which says it's a simulation, but to me, I would suspect it's a visual novel. It's got a bit of an art style to it. It's a little too soft for my taste, but not so terrible. The price will be the thing that kills this. If this is relatively cheap, I'll put it on the follow list. Although this is also a demo, so of course it's going to be free to play. It also says it has full audio, which is interesting. Although, also it's not coming out until late 2020, 2021. So putting this on the follow list to play a demo for a game that's not coming out is kind of silly. And that would be something that I would probably remove from a follow list very quickly. So you are probably better off just being blissfully ignorant of that game until much closer to its release date. And it's not like you're going to see a ton of hype for visual novel, even a Western visual novel, but you'll probably catch it when it does come out. I'm just waiting for Bola Citadel and then I'll win. Unless he can figure out some way to take me out. TechRaptor has an article here. Electronic Arts has patented a new non-linear battle pass, but it'll probably cost more than $3.99. So, I don't even know what you mean by a non-linear battle pass. I guess it's in the general idea that you buy a battle pass and then you level up and you get more rewards, kind of like the mastery pass here, but then it seems like you can choose your own direction and do a map. So if you start here, you go this way effectively, and then you go this way, and then you loop back over here, and then you go all the way this way, and then you do this, and then you go here, and then you do this. And regardless, this spot here you're going to have to walk on twice. So yeah, they're generically speaking just patenting something, throwing the patent on something that shouldn't be patentable. Here they're talking about, can it survive a challenge because of prior art? And the answer is almost certainly no, because it's not a unique idea to
let me show you what was lost.
A Candyland style board game options or chess. Basically the idea of chess where you can choose directions you want to move. A board where you get to choose the direction you want to move, with the concept of having to pay to get rewards on that board. Doesn't really work. Okay. We can do this because we're fine. If I kill this, it doesn't really do anything. Yeah. Let's see. The music just changed. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That should be more than enough to win. You still have to baby this quite a lot, but we are at the higher ranks now, so This is just legitimate Magic playing that we're doing now instead of the barely paying attention Magic playing I'd prefer to do. Next we have a game on Steam called Rest House, which looks like it might be something, or it might just be a dark screenshot. Kinda, I can't really call it an asset flip game. It looks more like somebody did something here to try and have a bit of a horror experience. It's $4.99. Apparently Rest House 2 is also available, so are these older games? I don't know. Doesn't seem like it. English full audio. Well, they're saying it's a puzzle horror game. It may be like a 3D point and click adventure. Kind of feels like I've seen this game before though on Steam. I'm not sure if this hasn't been listed before. Yeah. Here it says Steam database says it was $1.99 on June 2018. So how can it be re-released on 2020? This is shenanigans that they're pulling. So Rest House is not going on to the follow list. If anything, I'd put it on the ignore list, but then they would just potentially remove it from the storefront and relist it. Next, TechRaptor has an article. Hades, the Nighty Night update, detailed developer roadmap for March revealed. I didn't realize Hades was still getting updates, but again, all these Epic Store exclusives, I'm kind of boycotting them for at least their first 6 months of the point that they are released on Steam. I really don't want to reward people for doing the Steam exclusives. Once they're outside the launch window, maybe then I'd consider them, but probably by that point I've mostly forgotten about them too. I have enough mana here to play Bola Citadel, so all I really have to do is last for a few turns. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Pixel Pets, how game developers bring animals to life. Okay, if that's interesting to you, check out this article. I guess that's what you would call it, is an article. I see the end, so we can power through to get through all this. Next, we have a game on Steam called Floppy Heroes, which seems to be player versus player Smash Brothers clone with low gravity enabled at all times. Otherwise, it doesn't look interesting. It's early access, $5.59 English only. Just really looks like they kind of asset flipped a bunch of pixel graphic elements and then programmed it weirdly. Okay. Play that. TechRaptor has an article here. Fallout Shelter Online sequel brings the good and bad to mobile. At what point did Fallout Shelter be called Fallout Shelter Online, or is it Fallout Shelter, which I think would be Fallout : Shelter, and then comma, online sequel brings the good, the bad to mobile. More gameplay and more microtransaction. Fallout Shelter Online made its debut in China less than a year ago, and now it's going to be headed to the West. Okay. So they tested a improved version or a sequel to Fallout Shelter with more microtransactions in China, and now they're bringing it over. Does anybody think that's a good idea? Do I just want people reminded of Fallout 76? Because that's definitely the feeling I'm getting, is like, oh yeah, this is a complete reminder of Fallout 76 and its complete and total failure. Of course, I guess that's the thing, though, is that Bethesda, before they even announced it, had greenlit several mobile games and definitely gone in the direction of trying to have online free-to-play microtransaction style games. And even if they had immediately tried to pivot away from that mistake, it probably is too little too late. Do I want to block this guy? Because this has first strike, which I think means I'd have to block him with 2 characters. I mean, I could pull the old trick here and block him that way, but we'll just do this. Let's just hope that 14 health is enough for Bola Citadel. It should be. Should be enough to at least get us to that position. Go. Just don't toss the Bola Citadel onto the ground. The Epic Game Store tweeted that wish lists are now available. Try them out and share your thoughts. So you can now wishlist games.
March into battle.
One would assume that you would have been able to do that a long time ago, but apparently not.
I will lend you my strength.
They've just been incredibly terrible as far as solving this. Alright. Do we want to let 6 damage happen? Or are we going to try this and try this? Yeah, I'm going to experiment here. Why did it not let me sacrifice a creature? Is that because it has first strike, or is there another reason for that? Next we have a game on Steam called Saren Fate, which I think is kind of an RPG. It's not made with RPG Maker though, so that's something. Learn some magic type. It kind of looks like a Stardew Valley game where you're playing as a witch, which is a slight spin on Stardew Valley. $13.49 discounted, English only. I guess I don't see anything here that interests me. This might interest you if you like Stardew Valley, but I don't like the graphics. I don't like the Harvest Moon style of gameplay. I don't see anything here that I'd really want to do. Alright, let's play this. And then let's go ahead and play this. And let's attack with everything. In the hope that he blocks with something. Come on, block. Choose to block something. Alright, good. Kill something. At least. Seriously? We can do this, and then we can sacrifice food, and then that lets me play this, and then we can sacrifice another food. Okay. Think we can still save. Destroy target creature with 4 greater power. Alright, well, if you're gonna do that, I'll just sacrifice it. And then I'll probably lose anyways. Yeah, I'd have to get a lot of damage to win here, and I don't think I'm gonna get that.
I believe in you, friend.
Let's see. 4 first strike, mentor. 4. 4, 4. Right. Pull this off. Well, I might be able to pull this off. Interestingly enough. Because I can just block and block, and then sacrifice and sacrifice. As long as he doesn't get a 3rd creature.
Prepare for battle!
Indestructible. Indestructible. Vigilance. Okay. Can I not block these guys? Choose blocker. Choose blocker. Block. Sacrifice. Sacrifice. Put back on the field. Field and pass. Unless we can tap the guy. If we could tap the guy, that would be really nice. Alright. Play that. Play that. Go ahead and play that, I guess. And go ahead and play that. We can't do anything more. We don't have enough yet. Could attack with this. If I attacked with that, or that. Actually, I should have tapped this guy. There's kind of no reason to not have tapped him. Well, I guess I can tap him next turn, on the opponent's turn. TechRaptor has an article here. Borderlands 3 Steam pre-order features an unbelievable discount. So that they're probably not confident in their sales. Again, they're trying to get high sales in the release window of the Steam non-exclusive release. Let's see. Borderlands 3 Steam pre-order for a massive 50% off its retail price. So, yeah. Do they even have a link here to it? Like, does this go to Borderlands 3? No, it does not. So, yeah. No. That is surprising. Like, that you would have a 50% discount. But also Borderlands 3 didn't really get well received, and it's a 6-month-old game, and clearly they want the numbers to be higher in that launch window. So I'd still stick with the boycott it for at least 6 months. And it'll be a year-old game, and who cares when you get it at that point. Which, me in particular, I do want to play Borderlands 3, but I haven't even played the pre-sequel ever, so I've got plenty of stuff to do as far as the Borderlands series goes, and plenty of other games to play on top of that, particularly the Halo series, which, yeah, I don't know why you would buy Borderlands 3 if you could instead be playing Halo. First Strike, Mentor, Indestructible, Vigilance.
I am proud of those who walk beside me.
So now this one I don't think can get indestructible.
I believe in you.
Hey, we ranked up. Gold tier 3. And I think on that victory we will just wrap up today. Just because of my back more than anything. Like, I will have to play more off screen to get the full 10 victories, so that we can continue down this mastery battle pass to make sure we get to 90. There's 200, 400, 600, yeah, 600 gems, which would still have us be about 500 gems short. So we need either one really good draft or 2 or 3 average drafts. Let's just cover the rest of the news. Mod.io raises $1 million to help game devs support user-generated content. I don't know what Mod.io is. Check it out if you're interested. I think we'll skip games and just talk about the news, and then maybe go back and look at games. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Unity acquires the AI-driven art software company Art Engine, maker of Artomatics. Again, the software I've never heard of, although it probably has something of interest if Unity wants to acquire it, and one assumes put it in Unity at some point. TechRaptor has an article here. Dangerous Driving 2 left me feeling burned out. Does this game have a review? No, it's a preview game of a game. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article. Warhammer Mark of Chaos returns to start GOG's Warhammer Week with a bang. So, an old Warhammer game apparently now on GOG would be my guess. Already talked about Horizon Zero Dawn. We've already talked about Take-Two making NFL games that are non-simulation games. We already talked about Annapurna Interactive signing a partnership with Simogo to publish games across all platforms. That's the Sayonara Wild Hearts creators. So, yeah, I was definitely not wrong about the news just getting repeated over and over again. Lots and lots of duplicate tabs or duplicate stories from different sources. Dead by Daylight Chains of Hate update is now live. I am surprised they're still putting out content for Dead by Daylight, but at the very least, since it is a multiplayer only game, it does kind of make sense that you'd have to keep on supporting it until you fully admit that you are done with it and you're abandoning it. The Friday the 13th game is clearly fully abandoned at this point. TechRaptor has an article here. Zombie Army 4 roadmap unveiled alongside its first DLC. I don't know if I'd ever want to play a game like Zombie Army. Like, why would I want to play a military game where I'm fighting zombies? Well, it might be more interesting than just doing these zombie versions of the zombie side missions of first-person shooter games. TechRaptor has an article here. Before We Leave has promising design and frustrating flaws. This is not a preview of a game nobody's heard of, obviously. I imagine if E3 really is canceled, we'll just start to see more articles like this where people get exclusive exclusive previews of games. Gamma Sutra has an article here. The Game Developers Conference 2020 announces virtual worlds and talk schedule. So they plan to stream talks during the week of GDC 2020. Would have taken place March 16th through the 20th. So GDC is canceled and they figured out they're just going to stream the talks, which makes a lot of sense because they're effectively TED talks anyways. They should have been streamed years ago, and a virtual awards ceremony is not quite as good as a live awards ceremony, but it's not terrible either. It really just comes down to how much they plan on improving. I feel like we already talked about the banned and restricted announcement from Magic Arena, but in historic Oko Thief of Crowns, Once Upon a Time in Veil of Summer are banned. They were moved from suspended to banned, and this one was moved from suspended to legal. In Legacy, Underworld Breach is banned. That's a brand new card. Field of the Dead, now legal. And then Modern Once Upon a Time is banned. And this will be effective March 12th, 2020. Brawl. Doing Goliath Tireless Pilgrim is going to be banned in Brawl. And is there anything else? Well, there's possibly some other cards here being mentioned, but it seems like it's the same 4 or 5 cards that are problematic. Which, yeah, they should have thought through their cards a little bit more. Major Nelson put out this link to Project xCloud preview update, enabling you to discover and play more games. I think the idea is it's going to be kind of like a cell phone app to preview games without actually playing them, or maybe a Windows app. xCloud is the streaming service, so it could be on a tablet, it could be on a cell phone, it could be on lots of different things. Gamatsu has an article here. Captain Tsubasa Rise of New Champions details the episode New Hero mode. This is the soccer game based on the soccer anime. It'll be a lot more popular, I think, outside of the United States than inside. And then this was an interesting article from Gamasutra. Tim Sweeney says Epic will throw support behind NVIDIA GeForce Now, even though all the other companies that have said anything about GeForce Now have said they hate it and pulled out of it. So that's a weird side for him to take, Tim Sweeney to take. And that's kind of the problem with dealing with Epic in a nutshell, is that you do have a kind of volatile CEO, not anywhere as bad as Randy Pitchford, but kind of volatile in Tim Sweeney. So I don't know how you can do business with somebody that might come out and say something that conflicts with your own interests. Alright. There's a Humble Bundle here for Sakura Games. Sakura Games being the lewd games that one company puts out. They just kind of name everything with the word Sakura, which is just a Japanese word for cherry blossoms. They tend not to be very explicit, or as explicit as a adult game could be on Steam, and they tend not to be that good. But if you want to pay if you want to pay 100 pennies or $1 to Humble Bundle, you can get Sakura Spirits and Sakura Angels and Sakura Fantasy and Sakura Beach and Sakura Beach 2 and Sakura MMO. None of these games are really worth reviewing, in my opinion. And not even really worth owning and supporting, in my opinion, because these kind of are low effort adult games. If you pay more than the average of $7.39, you get Sakura Gamer, Sakura Space, Sakura Sadist, Sakura Cupid, Sakura Magical Girls, Sakura Shrine Girls, Sakura Agent, and Sakura MMO 2. And if you pay $10 or more, you get Sakura Dungeon, and Sakura Nova, and Sakura Swim Club, Sakura Gamer 2, Sakura Fox Adventure, and Sakura MMO 3. I think Sakura Dungeon might be a decent game, but I'm not sure that any of the others are actually that good at all. And again, not for children. And that's the new Humble Bundle, so don't expect any other Humble Bundles for at least 10 days. So that brings me back to my Twitter feed. Let's scroll down and let's see if we've got any new news. I do have about 10 games I could talk about and look at, but I don't think I'm going to bother to go through it today. I think we'll just end early, and maybe, just maybe, I'll figure out a way to get back to playing Ori and the Blind Forest. So yeah, I'm scrolling down my Twitter feed. Adam's Adventure Origins is coming to Switch. Never heard of it. Somebody just reminding me that ray tracing and the third Tomb Raider game exists. Guess I want the third Tomb Raider game. I haven't bought it. Insomniac Games is looking for mid to senior engineer programmers. Let's see. Super Mega Baseball 3 announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Keep on scrolling. Bit Summit, the 8th bit, has been cancelled, which I guess that was Bit Summit 8 due to coronavirus concerns. Just assume at this point everything is cancelled. Little Busters, the baseball visual novel game for the Switch, it launches April 23rd in the West. I think it's a baseball visual novel story. Yeah, I would say for the next 6 months or such, it does seem like the coronavirus is, for one reason or another, not affecting children and the young as much as, say, the flu and other viruses tend to affect children, which is interesting. Maybe not a big deal, because that just may mean they're asymptomatic and they're going to continue to spread. And if it does maintain an ability to reinfect people that are already infected, then that's going to be a problem. It also seems like there's not really a lot of evidence that it's being affected as much as it should be by warmer weather. So we are looking, from what I can tell, I said last time, if we're still dealing with it in 3 months with this current spread, it's going to be a big problem. It's looking now like 3 months to 6 months would be a good guess of how long the coronavirus might be around. And if it makes it to the tip of 6 months, there's really no reason to believe that it doesn't become a virus that stays around permanently. We may just have yearly, annual strains of the coronavirus, and its deadliness is pretty high. Not as high as it could be, but a 2% fatality rate is kind of high, and that's where I've heard the estimates could max out at is 2% fatality rates. So yeah, there's a lot of reason to be concerned, and we'll just have to see if people washing their hands and being concerned does what's expected, which would be to reduce the infection rates. If it still manages to increase for 3 to 6 months from now, if the rates of infection are going up and up and up, probably at that point almost everybody on the planet would be infected at the end of 6 months, if the rate continues to increase. So yeah, there's a lot to be concerned with, and I don't see any reason to believe that there will be any major events at all this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we see very few new products this Christmas. I wouldn't be surprised if that affects the economy quite a bit and affects retail quite a bit. So yeah, we are going to live in interesting times, it seems. Anyways, that has very little to do with video games. That's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have